Hello everybody, welcome back to another review by me, Ross. I'm Ross and you are most likely named Fred. If you're not named Fred, leave your name in the comments down below and I'll say hello to you. In this review, we are talking about The World Is Not Enough, the third entry for Pierce Brosnan in the James Bond films, the 19th James Bond movie overall. Can you believe it? 19 James Bond movies from 1962 to 1999. We're not counting the unofficial ones. I don't want to talk about those. We're talking about the James Bond movies. 1999, this movie came out. It was 2 years after Tomorrow Never Dies, and it's, been like 4 years since GoldenEye. And it is the third Pierce Brosnan movie. Now, a lot of people say that the third is sometimes considered the best in the James Bond films. You've got Sean Connery had Goldfinger, which is his third, and a lot of people say that was his best. And for Roger Moore, you had The Spy Who Loved Me was his third, and again, a lot of people say that was his best. Timothy Dalton didn't get that opportunity, and George Lazenby only got one. So now we're here with Pierce, and he's given us The World Is Not Enough. Now, 1999 was a year that I actually remember quite well. It was the year that I turned 15. It was also the year that I started working at a video store, Video Easy, I started working at in Melbourne. And the reason that's so important to me is because I was an absolute film freak. I loved movies. I wanted to write my own movies. I would always be writing. And it is also where my love of James Bond from the GoldenEye 64 video game and then the GoldenEye movie and then watching them and, starting to watch them. At this point, it was my obsession with James Bond was at its peak. Leading up to The World Is Not Enough, I remember watching all the trailers, all the TV spots as they would pop up on TV. I was hyped. I was waiting for this movie. From memory, it came out in Australia in late November. And the only reason why that does kind of seem to fit with me is because I was in year 10 in high school in Australia. And we were doing like mock exams. It was just a way of getting people prepared for the next year of high school, I guess. And me and my friends, I had a group of like 5 friends that I was really close with, and we were all hyped for this movie. A few of us had the Nintendo 64, and a few of us also had GoldenEye, and every time we would meet up at a friend's house, we would get stuck into the game and play multiplayer, and there would always be that one guy that would use Odd Job. But we would always play the game, and we were absolutely hyped. Now, Tomorrow Never Dies, not many people were kind of like talking about that. I had the game on PlayStation, on the PS1, but GoldenEye 64 was still being played multiplayer-wise for the Nintendo 64. So leading up to The World Is Not Enough release, me and my friends all decided, you know what? We're going to finish our exams at like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Why don't we just walk to the cinemas? None of us could drive. Get tickets and watch the film on the release date. And that's what we did. That's what we did. So leading up to this movie, leading up to The World Is Not Enough, I was in peak Bond nerd mode. At this point, I had seen probably 90% of the James Bond movies on whether it be VHS or at this point DVD. I was absolutely pumped. GoldenEye at this point was my favourite James Bond. Pierce Brosnan was my favourite James Bond at this point, and I was like just over the moon. And I remember finishing exams or our mock exams, waiting for my friends at the front of the school. We all grabbed our water bottles and we just started walking to the shops. Now, in November in Australia, it's just before summer, but it is exceptionally warm as soon as the sun hits you. Like even today, it is 20 degrees, but if you were to stand in the sun for 5 minutes, your skin would just go bright red and begin to burn. And we didn't care. We walked all the way, like I said, it was 30 minutes, probably about 5 kilometers. We walked from where we were at the school all the way up to the shopping centre, purchased our tickets, sat down. All of us were just absolutely stuffed from this walk, but we sat down, the movie kicked in, and all of us were silent throughout this whole movie. Some of us cheered, some of us laughed, some of us weren't too fond of the film, but whatever it is, we reacted to this movie at all points, and it was a phenomenal experience. Now, because I was also working at the video store part-time at this point, there was what you would get called loop tapes. And these loop tapes were like for the month of November, and it would be all the highlights, movie trailers, music videos, just advertisements for movies that were coming up on a cassette tape, VHS, and we would put it in the VHS in the video player, and it would just play on loop tape. It would play on loop in the store. And because The World Is Not Enough was coming out, it just had like a 5-minute feature on The World Is Not Enough, but also on James Bond in general. And it also had the music video for the song The World Is Not Enough by Garbage, which is in this film. And it was just constantly in my head. It was constantly playing, and I was just like, I'm just so excited for this movie, like it needs to hurry up. And now it's been, it's probably been 26 years since that moment. And do my thoughts on The World Is Not Enough still hold up? Do I still think that it is one of Pierce's best? Do I still watch this movie with pure excitement? Am I still enthralled by everything that happens? Do the twists and turns still get me? Short answer, yes. I watched this movie a few times leading up to this review, and I watched it actually in my theatre room, and when I was watching it, the opening sequence of the movie, which was at this point one of the longest opening sequences in any James Bond movie, just had me with a smile. Like I was just smile from ear to ear watching the first 20 so minutes of this movie, and the rest of the movie, in fact. It really did take me back to that 1999 day when I was with my friends and we were just watching this film together. It really did mean a lot to me. So let's get into the story a little bit. The movie begins with Bond. He actually goes to Spain and he's meeting up with a Swiss banker, and he's trying to retrieve some money for Sir Robert King, who happens to be a friend of M. And while he's there, there's a bit of a fight breaks out. Bond gets the guy and begins interrogating him, and he wants to know who had the money, where did it come from, pretty much who's in charge of this operation. And this guy is about to say something, and then he gets killed. And Bond's in this room, the police are coming, they're going to come after Bond. Bond actually has a fight with another guy, grabs like a bungee cord, straps it to this guy, dives out the window with the money, and he falls out the window, and this guy's like coming to, but he's trying to stop himself from flying across the room, but Bond ends up going to the ground, untightening it, and just walks off. And eventually we go back to MI6. Bond's there with M and Sir Robert King. He's looking at the money. Sir Robert King thanks him, M thanks him, and while M and Bond are having a bit of a drink, Bond's hands react to something that was on the money, and instantly he bolts through MI6 yelling for people to stop Sir Robert King. And then when Robert King opens up the briefcase, the money just explodes in the whole area and he dies. And we find out that there's a person out on I think it's the Thames River, the Thames, I think it might be, whatever it is, correct me. But out on the Thames River, where the MI6 building is this speedboat. And inside the speedboat is a woman who is kind of affectionately referred to as the Cigar Girl. And she was actually in Spain in the room when Bond was trying to get the deal with the money from the Swiss banker. And she's there, she's got a machine gun rifle and she's aiming it at Bond. And just as she fires, Bond ducks out of the way, goes to Q, gets his boat and launches out of MI6 and has this brilliant chase on the Thames, on the water there, against this speedboat. And the cigar girl is trying to duck and weave, and she's diving out of the way, and she's using her speedboat, and she's going for it. And Bond is just chasing along, and there are some amazing moments where he uses the water, the ripples in the water, and he dives off it. And as he dives off it, he's bouncing all over the place like that. And she's shooting at him and everything like that. And Bond's Q-boat, he's got like these torpedoes, he's got GPS tracking locations and everything. It's a really fun sequence. One of my favorite moments is Bond does this jump and he comes just over the boat. Now, as he does it, he does this corkscrew jump. And then, so corkscrew spins through the air and lands on the water and just speeds off past the boat and then comes back around. And it just, first of all, it reminded me of The Man with the Golden Gun when Bond does the corkscrew jump in the car over the bridge. But it was just such a fantastic little moment. I was absolutely blown away. And it was, I remember that sequence, that stunt alone, always been on all of the ads that were running, all of the promos for this movie. That stunt, that corkscrew boat flip, was one of the ones that was always shown. And another wonderful sequence that I absolutely love is the boat's got like a submarine mode. So Bond is going after the cigar girl. She's gone through, the bridge is closed down, and because the bridge is closed down, Bond's not going to get underneath it. So he puts it into like submarine mode, dives underwater, and while he's dived underwater, typical Pierce Bond, he adjusts his tie like that as he's going under. And I love it because that just seems to be a thing that Pierce Brosnan does, especially in this movie. I noticed it, and also in GoldenEye when he's in the tank through the Russian streets, he adjusts his tie like that also. So it seems to be a little thing that he does, but it's a fantastic little sequence because even going underwater, you just see he's just being nice and proper and just making sure that his tie is all adjusted. I also love the fact that you see Pierce Brosnan actually doing a bit of this driving on the Thames himself, which is great that it's not always just the stunt guy, that it is Pierce doing it too, which is fantastic. So anyway, the sequence comes to an end when Bond shoots a couple of like little torpedoes at the speedboat. She drives off course, ends up getting into a hot air balloon, which has got gas canisters on the side of it. Bond launches up off his speedboat, grabs onto one of the ropes, the awning ropes, and he's holding onto it. And all he wants from this woman is a name. Who done this? Who organised all this? And she's telling him, I can't tell you. If I tell you, he'll kill me. And Bond's like, we'll protect you. We will protect you. Just don't do it. She ends up getting her gun, aiming it, holding it right at the gas canisters and shoots them. And just before the hot air balloon blows up, Bond lets go, falls down, and as he's falling down the side of this building, he's grabbing onto the ropes. And I do like the fact that the stuntman, when they were filming this sequence, he actually missed the rope on his first grab. He was meant to grab it the first time. He missed it and then ended up grabbing it on the second time. And because of that, they just left it in the film. And it does look really like when he finally grabs onto this ropes that's there, you actually feel like there's a bit of pain coming from this guy. But it's great. And once this sequence comes to an end, Cigar Girl, unfortunately, she dies without giving Bond a name. And then it cuts to the title sequence, which is, as I said before, The World Is Not Enough by Garbage, which I really love this song. Like, I own the soundtrack for this movie, and when I was younger, I never had a TV in my room. I only ever had a cassette player and a CD player. And because I owned the CD for this movie, I would have the soundtrack on loop, on repeat, all the time. And this theme song, The World Is Not Enough by Garbage, is anything but garbage. It's fantastic. It's a phenomenal soundtrack. It's a phenomenal song. It's really good. Like, it actually does work perfectly, and the images that come over the credits are women in like oil and things like that, because that's Sir Robert King, who died. He was an oil tycoon. So it's fitting for the movie, and it is about oil and pipelines and oil pipelines and everything like that. So it fits with the motto of the film. So well done. Music in this movie, really good. David Arnold, who returns from Tomorrow Never Dies, also returns to score this movie. And he does an absolutely wonderful job here. Actually, I like this score, The World Is Not Enough, much better than I did Tomorrow Never Dies. Tomorrow Never Dies to me felt too techno. It felt like it had too much electronic music going on, whereas The World Is Not Enough, or Twine, whatever you prefer to call it, it just feels a little bit more classical music, but it still has that electronic beat to it. But I don't mind it so much here because it's more subtle. It's not as in your face as Tomorrow Never Dies was. And the Bond theme in Tomorrow Never Dies isn't played nearly as much in this film as it was in Tomorrow Never Dies. So I feel like this is probably David Arnold's best musical score, not to give anything away for his future soundtracks that he does. But after that, we cut back to Bond and M, who are at the funeral for Sir Robert King. And we finally meet Electra King, who is the daughter of Sir Robert King. And M, being a good friend of Sir Robert King, is also a friend of Electra King. And Electra thanks M for being such a good friend to her father. And Bond is there. And Bond's got his arm in a sling because when he fell down the dome area before, he injured one of the tendons in his arm, in his shoulder. So he's kind of injured. And what happens in this when they're at their, like, I think it's in Scotland. They're at their safe house in Scotland. MI6 has got a Scotland setup going on there. Is Bond actually does a little bit of snooping around because he wasn't given a mission briefing. He's like, well, you know what? I'm just going to do a little bit of snooping. So he starts snooping around and he works out that the money that was in the briefcase that he retrieved in Spain is equal to the exact amount of money that Sir Robert King was asked to give when his daughter was held hostage by a man named Renard years ago. So that's what's going on in this moment. So what you find out is that Sir Robert King and his daughter Electra King, Electra was kidnapped when she was younger. We don't know. I don't know how many years it is exactly. They might say it in the film, but it's not with me at the moment. So she was kidnapped by a man named Renard, and he was holding her hostage for a sum of money. M convinced Sir Robert King not to negotiate, not to give in to the terrorists, pretty much. So he didn't give the money in. And eventually Electra King escaped. She used her ways of seduction to seduce the men there, and she managed to escape. And we find out that the money that, as I said, was in the suitcase was the exact amount of money that was asked in the ransom. So Bond now knows these two incidents are actually connected. The same man, Renard, is behind this. And we find out that Renard was, after this incident, M sent a 00 agent to kill Renard, but all he managed to do was shoot him in the head. And the bullet is slowly travelling to his through to his brain, but as it does so, it's cutting off pain receptors. So this guy in one sequence picks up a hot coal, like a burning hot coal, and he's holding it in his hand, and he doesn't even feel the pain. And I mean, that's how he is. And he's played by Robert Carlyle, and he's wonderful in this movie. I mean, I've preferred him in other films, but not to knock the guy, he's still really good in this film. So Renard, we find out, is pretty much tying up loose ends. He's gone after Sir Robert King and killed him. And Bond says to M, well, he might be going after Electra King now. So M says, well, your mission is shadow Electra, but most important of all, don't let her know that Renard is behind this, because we can't have her knowing that. So Bond then travels to Azerbaijan and all these other locations with Electra King when he meets her back. And Electra King, played by Sophie Marceau, is beautiful. When it comes to Sophie Marceau, there's just something about her. She's got almost like this, she's got like this old Hollywood beauty to her, if that makes any sort of sense. She's absolutely beautiful in this, not just in this movie, but in general. Anyway, she's wonderful. She plays the part. She's deadly. Like, spoilers ahead, but she is the bad guy in this movie. She's the main villain. We don't know that at the beginning, but when Bond eventually meets up with her, we find out that, she's taken over her father's oil pipeline, and she's going to continue the pipelines and everything like that, and she wants to continue his work, and, she's grateful for Bond for what he did, but she doesn't need his help, and Bond's like, look, you do need my help. There are people trying to kill you. He doesn't tell her Renard, but he goes, there are people trying to kill you. So anyway, they go to check out one of the pipelines, and it's in this snowy mountain area. So Bond and Elektra are skiing together, and it's fantastic. It's a great little sequence. They're just being kind of flirty. They're talking and this and that, and in the background, all of a sudden you see these kind of like, I don't know what they're like ski paragliders, and they've got parachutes but with massive fans on them. And these guys are, let's call them paragliders. These paragliders are coming after Elektra and Bond, trying to kill them. And they're dropping grenades from the sky. And Bond tells Elektra, go for the trees. Just go. I'll take care of them. So Bond doesn't have his guns or anything like that. So he's skiing. He's avoiding them. He manages to lose a couple of them, kill a couple of them. And there's this one really good sequence where Bond jumps off the cliff, and as he's doing it, he uses his ski pole, the bottom of it, and swipes at the actual parachute, and it splits it in half, and this guy just goes and flies off into another one and kills him. But there's also a really good sequence where one of the guys rips the cable for his parachute. He goes on the snow down after Bond, and there's a cliff down ahead, and Bond slides just out of the way just in time, and you're like, oh, what a kill he's gonna get. And then all of a sudden this paraglider flies off the cliff, and as it's falling down, Bond's looking at it, and then all of a sudden a parachute comes out the back and he starts flying again. And it's just this humbling moment, because normally in a Bond film, Bond can just get these kills, and it's like, how are you getting these? And in this film here, you think to yourself, oh, what an absolute legendary way to get this guy. And then all of a sudden the parachute comes out, and you're like, oh, well, I guess he didn't get that kill. And it's a fun little sequence. Bond ends up defeating them all, and you end up, Elektra decides, okay, maybe there are people trying to kill me. The plot continues where Bond ends up finding Renard, who's trying to steal some plutonium from a nuclear core, the plutonium from a nuclear core, and he manages to get away. Renard actually gets the plutonium, escapes, and in this sequence here we meet Dr. Christmas Jones, who's played by Denise Richards. And in 1999, she was one of the hottest things around. She was like Wild Things and Starship Troopers. There was also another movie she was in, not Drop Dead Gorgeous. There was another movie she was in. She was like a cheerleader or something like that at a high school. I remember watching that at the video store. That was actually pretty good. But she was a very, very in demand when it came to men. And when she appeared in this film, knowing that she was in it, when she appeared in this film, I just remember a couple of my mates and I were cheering in the cinema. But she plays a nuclear physicist, and she's a doctor, and she tells Bond, my name is Dr. Christmas Jones, and I don't want to hear any jokes about it. I've heard them all. And Bond's like, oh, I don't know any doctor jokes. And it's a fun little moment. But anyway, Renard ends up escaping with the plutonium. Dr. Christmas Jones and Bond both escape. What I like about this moment is that when Bond is on his knees in front of Renard, and Renard's got his gun ready to kill Bond, he pinches Bond's shoulder. And maybe 15 minutes earlier in the movie, when Elektra and Bond are sleeping with each other, she touches his shoulder and she makes a comment about it. So when Renard grabs and pinches his shoulder to cause pain to Bond, he then says something, there's no point in living if you can't feel alive. And he says that to Bond, which was also something that Elektra said to Bond. So in that moment, Bond's like, huh? Hang on a second, what's going on here? And when he escapes that area, he actually confronts Elektra, and he, pretty much tells her, you killed your father, you and Renard are working together, and I'm going to prove it. At that point, because Bond had vanished for a while, M was called, and she's now there with Elektra, and Judi Dench obviously gets a much larger role in this movie, which is a good thing because she does play M in this movie almost like a mother figure. I know everyone says M is like the mother figure to Daniel Craig's Bond, but I think it started in this film here, where she's not so much as just a boss to Bond. She's more of a mother figure, a nurturing figure, and you see that with Elektra, and you see that with Bond in this movie. And so she's there, and Bond tells M, hang on a second, don't trust this woman, there's something wrong. And M's like, what are you talking about? At that same moment, you find out that an alarm has gone off in one of the oil pipelines not too far from where they are. And Elektra says, if you think I'm involved, why would I want to blow up my own pipelines? And Bond's like, well, I need to go out there and check. So he and Dr. Jones go out there. They're on these, they call it a pig, I guess. And they're on these contraption on the inside of the tunnel. And it's like this super quick, speedy platform that they lay down on. And they're going for this other one that's in there. And that, they find out, has got the plutonium on there that was stolen. But only half of the plutonium, the half of the plutonium core is there. So Bond's like, what are they doing with the other half? What's going on? Anyway, Dr. Jones manages to disable the plutonium part of the bomb, so it won't be deadly as deadly. But Bond tells her, let the bomb blow up. We need them to think that we're dead. And she's like, are you crazy? Bond's like, trust me, just do it. The bomb goes off. They manage to get out safely. And Bond tells her, look, there is something going on. I do not trust pretty much Elektra King. Something's going on. And we do find out eventually Elektra talks with M and hands M this lapel, which was Sir Robert King's lapel. And it turns out that inside the lapel that Robert King was wearing when he died was a micro receiver. And that micro receiver reacted with the money, and that's what caused the detonation. So Elektra hands the actual one to M, and that's when M realizes, oh, so she did kill her father. They capture M, put her in like a little jail cell, and they pretty much say to her, we're going to blow up the pipelines of opposing people, like the opposing pipelines, so then only Elektra King's oil pipelines will be left, and then she'll have this monopoly over all of Europe and everything like that. She'll have all of the oil pipelines, the only ones left. And she's using Valentin Zukovsky. Yes, Valentin Zukovsky returns. They're using his nephew, who is like a submarine commander, a captain of a submarine. They're using one of his submarines and they want to detonate the rest of the plutonium in Istanbul, hoping that that will destroy the rest of the pipelines, and then only Elektra has hers left. And they would get away with it if it wasn't for Bond. So anyway, Bond ends up rocking back up, kills Elektra King, which is just really... I remember watching that in the cinema, and I'm like, whoa. He just like pulls the gun and bang, shoots her. He doesn't even care that M's there. And then goes after Renard, who has kidnapped Dr. Jones. So Bond dives down into the submarine, gets in there, ends up killing Renard, escapes the submarine through the torpedo tubes. He escapes with Dr. Jones. They manage to prevent the other pipelines from being destroyed, and then ends up in Istanbul with Dr. Jones, and the movie ends. And look, I really enjoy this movie. I mean, it's not Pierce's best. GoldenEye is still number one. But this one is easily his next best James Bond movie. I like the direction. with this movie. I like that it's a little bit more of a serious tone than what Tomorrow Never Dies was. It feels, I mean, Tomorrow Never Dies had a lot of script issues, and only knowing that when I watch the movie, I know that there are issues with the script. This one, he feels very tight. Like, you can tell that a lot of care was taken to make Elektra King the villain. Like, Renard is her henchman in this movie. He's played up as the main bad guy, but at the end of it all, it's Elektra King. She's the puppet master here. It turns out that when she was kidnapped, she actually, as Bond puts it, it was Stockholm Syndrome, but she actually seduced Renard, and in the movie, she cuts off the earlobe, the bottom part of her ear, and sends it back to her father saying, hey, we're serious. She was the one that cut her own ear because Renard didn't want to do it. He loved her. And there is actual love between these characters. It's not her just using him. They are in love. Elektra is in love with Renard. Renard is in love with Elektra. And she's orchestrated this whole event, the event of these movies. She's orchestrated. And I love that. And I understand that Bond in this movie fell in love with Elektra, because he does mention it when he's talking to Dr. Jones, Dr. Christmas Jones. He does mention that he was in love with Elektra. Not so much saying the words, but he says now it's only platonic between them, which implies that it wasn't platonic before. And I do appreciate the fact that the filmmakers dressed Elektra King in such a way that she was reminding Bond of Tracy from On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And I always had a bit of an issue with that, because I'm like, oh, how would Elektra King know that Bond was married and this and that? Well, she would. I mean, if she knew M, and who knows, she might have had contacts within MI6 and they let people know what happened with Bond and Tracy and this and that. So I don't mind it, and I actually really like it. Like, the ski sequence in this movie kind of reminds me of the ski sequence in On Her Majesty's Secret Service in all the good ways. And Pierce here is probably at his best. Like I said, GoldenEye is still my favourite Pierce Brosnan James Bond movie, but he's best in this film. He's more comfortable in the role. He's a lot deadlier. He can pour the charm on when he wants. I really like this movie in all regards. Denise Richards as Dr. Jones, Dr. Christmas Jones. Never had a problem with her. She's beautiful. I mean, yeah, clearly she's here for her sex appeal. And that's the same thing with the next movie, Die Another Day. But I don't mind. She's not badly acted. She's actually competent in her role. She doesn't ham it up. No one in this film actually hams it up. Everyone in this movie is really on point. You can tell that the director, Michael Apted, I believe his name was, he was a director of drama, not action. And when he came on board for this film, big difference from his previous movies. And he handles it perfectly. There is no issue with direction in this movie. There's no fault that I can really pick. I feel like the script is very tight. The script is really good. It doesn't overstay its welcome, this movie, and it handles the twist. And I guess the subject matter of, you know, using her seduction as a way of gaining control over these men. Even Bond falls for her. I really love that about Elektra King. Brilliant. And one massive mention has to go to Desmond Llewellyn, who plays Q. This was his final James Bond movie. He unfortunately passed away, I think it was only a few weeks after the premiere of The World Is Not Enough. He was at a book signing. He was driving home on his own. There was a head-on collision with another car. And unfortunately, Desmond Llewellyn didn't survive. He passed away. He was, I think it was 85 years old at the time. And in this movie here, we're introduced to his replacement, or his assistant, who Bond refers to as R. and he's played by John Cleese, who will return in the next film as Q. And Desmond Llewellyn gets a wonderful little send-off in this movie where he says to Bond, "I've always tried to teach you two things.
First, never let them see you bleed.
And the second?
Always have an escape plan."
It must have been like someone could tell the future, because it was such a beautiful moment and respect for not only the actor but the character of Q. And I really did, like, even in this movie, in this sequence when Bond and Q are having their moment inside his Q branch area, they've got more of a it's a very loving and very caring relationship. I mean, he is pissed off with Bond because he took his boat and it was going to be his retirement boat. But once they get over that, it's a beautiful little moment between the two. And I remember my heart was breaking when I heard about Desmond Llewellyn passing, and I read it in the paper, and I was devastated. I was absolutely devastated. And when I went to go watch this movie the second time at the cinema, it was after that news had come out about his passing, and it was a powerful moment. Anyway, we're not going to talk about that. We've spoken about the movie. I absolutely love it. Fantastic movie. Great score. Beautiful music from Garbage. Great, fantastic action. Valentin Zakovsky returns, played by Robbie Coltrane, and dies in this movie too, which was a bit sad because I was actually really loving the character in this movie. He's done really well. But yeah, so let's get on to the kill counts and everything like that, because I feel like that's what we need to get into. So in this film here, Bond's kill count is a whopping 19. He takes out a whole bunch of people in helicopters. There's a moment at Zakovsky's caviar factory, and Bond's taking out helicopters with his BMW, and blows one of them up with a gas pipe and everything like that, and takes out a couple of the paratrooper people, the paragliders. He also takes out Elektra, and he also takes out Renard. So I think that's fantastic. We've got 7 different locations. Bond doesn't really travel he goes to Spain, but he's only there for like 10-15 minutes. He's in England, Scotland, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, the Caspian Sea, and then Istanbul for the remainder of the movie. And then for Ladies Bedded, I'm going to read this one out. He's got Dr. Molly Warmflash, who is the doctor for MI6, who Bond seduces and convinces to say, "Hey, my shoulder's okay, let me continue on with my mission." We then have Elektra King, and we have Dr. Christmas Jones, who has one of the best little lines toward the very end of the movie when Bond goes, "I thought Christmas only came once a year." And what a send-off, what an absolute send-off. And then, credits roll. Look, phenomenal movie, absolutely loved it. The World Is Not Enough I still love it. It's been 26 years since this movie came out, and I'm still... Is it 26 years? It is 1999 to 2025, 26 years, and I'm still loving this movie every time I watch it. I don't know if I can say that about the next film, Die Another Day. We will get to that when the release comes out. But look, until then, enjoy. Goodbye. Ross will return. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.